I still remember the tone of her voice that afternoon. Not angry. Not even annoyed. Just distant. Like I was some obligation she didn't have room for anymore. "Dad, we're too busy this year," my daughter Emily said. She didn't pause. She didn't soften it. It was a simple line, delivered with the casual confidence of a young woman juggling a career, a marriage, 2 kids, and a schedule tighter than a drum. I swallowed the lump in my throat before she could hear it. "Of course," I replied. "I understand." And I did. Or at least, I tried to. She had her life. A full one. A loud one. A fast one. My life was different now, slower, quieter, measured in morning walks and afternoon tea rather than deadlines and soccer practices. But the words still bruised something inside me. Because she wasn't talking about some vacation or dinner invitation. She was talking about Christmas, our Christmas. The one tradition we shared every year since she was born. The one holiday I decorated the house for weeks in advance, as if her laughter itself depended on the lights being hung at the perfect angle. "Maybe next year," she added, her voice fading into background noise. I could hear her multitasking, typing, maybe washing something, maybe wrangling one of the kids. And I said it again, quietly, calmly. "Of course, Em. Don't worry about it." But when the call ended, the house felt smaller. Colder. As if the air itself had stepped back from me. That night, while the lights of the neighborhood flickered through my window, I sat at my old oak desk. I pulled out my will, the one I hadn't touched in years, and placed it in front of me. Not out of anger. Not spite. Not punishment. But clarity. If I had become a footnote in her busy life, then maybe my home, my savings, my everything didn't need to wait on her either. And I changed my will that same night. I raised Emily on my own after her mother passed away when she was 12. Those were heavy years, grief settling on our shoulders like winter snow, but somehow we leaned on each other. She became my purpose, and I became her anchor. We had a small house in a quiet suburb outside Portland. Nothing fancy. Blue shutters, a porch swing, and a yard full of maple trees that burned red every autumn. But it was enough. More than enough. Emily used to run through those trees with her hair flying behind her like a banner. She'd bring home leaves pressed in books, proudly showing me how each one looked like a burst of fire. "Dad, look. This one's shaped like a star." Her voice still echoes if I close my eyes. When she grew older, she turned that curiosity into ambition. College. Internship. Dream job in Seattle. Marriage. Kids. A life built brick by brick, each one placed farther away from me. I never complained. I never tried to hold her tighter than life allowed. I just stood quietly in the background, cheering for her from the shadows whenever she forgot to look back. Whenever she called, I answered on the first ring. Whenever she said she was visiting, I stocked the fridge with her favorites: lemon pie, roasted chicken, cheddar biscuits. Whenever she needed help, even with something as small as picking a paint color for her living room, I was there. That was our rhythm. But rhythms change. In the past few years, her calls became shorter. Her visits rarer. Her texts spaced farther apart. I told myself it was normal. People grow. Lives expand. Schedules tighten. I'd been a young parent once too, juggling work, bills, responsibilities. Maybe I had been just as distracted. Still, a part of me hoped she'd never forget the man who held her through her darkest nights. Which brings us to that December afternoon. The sky was gray. The house was quiet. And the woman who once believed Christmas was incomplete without me told me she didn't have time that year. Not out of cruelty. But because the world had pulled her in so many directions that she didn't even notice I was drifting out of view. So I made the decision that night. A calm, steady decision. Not to punish her. But to liberate myself. My will had originally left everything: the house, the savings, the small cabin by the lake that I bought after retirement, to Emily. Naturally. Who else did I have? But after that phone call, I realized something quietly profound. Love is not a transaction. But inheritance is. And if I wasn't part of her life anymore, why should my life's work wait for a place in hers? The weeks before Christmas were always my favorite. The scent of pine. The hum of nostalgic songs leaking out of radios. The way the neighborhood children ran around with candy canes like tiny swords. But that year, the season felt different. Every ornament I unboxed reminded me of her small hands holding them. Every wreath I hung felt like a memory suspended in time. I still decorated the house. Not because she was coming, but because I always had. Tradition is stubborn that way. It clings to you, even when the people attached to it don't. The neighbors noticed something was off. "You spending the holidays alone again, Michael?" Old Mrs. Patterson asked as she shuffled by with her dachshund. I smiled. "Looks like it. That girl of yours used to never miss Christmas." "I know," I said simply. "Life gets busy." She nodded, the kind of nod that carries pity but tries to hide it. I didn't need her sympathy. I knew Emily loved me. I also knew that love can get buried under layers of deadlines, carpools, appointments, and exhaustion. Sometimes people don't realize they're neglecting someone until the absence becomes a wound. Still, a part of me felt the sting. When Christmas Eve arrived, I lit the fireplace and sat in my armchair with a cup of hot cider. For the first time in years, the house was completely silent. I didn't expect Emily to call. She had already sent a quick text that morning. "Merry Christmas Eve, Dad. Love you." 6 words. No plan to visit. No wish you were here. Just a convenience text sent, probably, in between wrapping presents or packing for her in-laws' dinner. I answered kindly, because that's who I am. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Have a beautiful day." But something inside me settled. A quiet resignation. A peaceful acceptance. Loving people means understanding when you're no longer at the center of their world. It doesn't mean bitterness. It doesn't mean withdrawal. It means adjusting the weight you carry. A few days after Christmas, Emily called again. "Dad, I'm so sorry," she said, sounding breathless. "This season has been insane. We're drowning over here. I really wanted to visit." "I know," I said. "Don't worry. I'll come by next month, okay?" "Whenever works for you, Em." She paused, as if trying to hear something beneath my calm tone. "You sure you're okay?" "I'm fine." But the truth was different. I was at peace because I had already made my choice. She didn't know I had revised my will 2 nights after the call. She didn't know everything. The house, the savings, the lake cabin, was no longer in her name. She didn't know I had chosen someone else. And she wouldn't know until the time came. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because she needed to understand that love is not guaranteed by blood alone, it's maintained by presence. And presence, unintentional as it may be, had slipped away from her. Over the next few weeks, something else happened. Something that pushed my quiet decision into sharper relief. The people who stood by me showed up. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, started bringing warm meals every Friday without asking. Tom, the mailman, left a Christmas card on my porch with a note that said, "You remind me of my grandfather." Even little Noah next door started knocking on my door to show me his toy cars. These small gestures, simple, genuine, unplanned, warmed me more than any grand holiday visit ever could. It made me realize that family isn't just about who shares your DNA. It's about who shares your days. And Emily, without meaning to, had stopped sharing hers with me. The turning point came slowly, like dawn creeping across a field. In January, something unexpected happened. I slipped on ice while taking out the trash. Nothing serious. Just a bad fall that bruised my hip and my pride. The neighbors noticed right away. Tom helped me up. Mrs. Patterson brought soup. Even Noah's parents asked if I needed groceries. I thanked them all. But I didn't tell Emily. Not out of anger. But because I didn't want her to feel obligated. That's the worst kind of love, the kind forced out of guilt. 2 weeks later, Emily finally visited. She walked in with a rush of winter air, her cheeks pink from the cold. "Dad, you didn't tell me you fell." "I'm okay," I said. "Nothing broken." "But why didn't you call me?" "You had enough on your plate." She looked around the house as if seeing it for the first time in years. The decorations were still up, I never got around to taking them down, and dust lay thick on the mantel. "Dad, have you been managing all this alone?" "I always have." Her face softened, guilt blooming like a shadow. "I didn't mean to be so absent," she whispered. "I know. I didn't realize." "That's the thing, Em. You didn't realize." She sat down, folding her hands tightly. "Dad, I love you. You know that, right?" "I never doubted it. But I haven't been fair to you. I never asked you to be perfect." She blinked rapidly, and I could see her fighting back tears. We talked for a long time. About her kids. Her job. Her exhaustion. Her fear that she was failing as a mother and a wife. She confessed things she had never said out loud. "I thought you didn't need me," she admitted. "Needing and expecting are two different things," I said. "I don't expect anything. But presence matters." That conversation didn't undo the distance. But it cleared the fog between us. Still, I didn't change the will back. Because quiet justice isn't about flipping decisions out of emotion. It's about letting life speak truth in its own time. And the truth was simple. The people who cared for me when I needed them, consistently, quietly, without obligation, deserved something too. I left the house to a local charity that builds homes for single parents. I left the savings to a scholarship fund for children from the neighborhood. And I left the lake cabin to Tom's son, who spent every summer fishing with me even when he was busy with school and sports. I didn't do it to make Emily feel guilty. I did it because intention matters. And they had intended kindness toward me without expecting anything in return. Emily continued visiting more regularly after that day. Sunday afternoons. Sometimes breakfast on Saturdays. Sometimes she brought the kids, who climbed all over me like little monkeys. Those moments were beautiful. Warm. But they didn't erase the years of slow, unintentional distance. And they didn't erase the decision I had already made. Quiet justice doesn't announce itself. It waits. 3 years later, my time came. Not abruptly. Not painfully. Just naturally. Like a candle burning out after a long, steady glow. Emily was there at the hospital. Holding my hand. Telling stories about her childhood. Apologizing again for that Christmas years ago. "Dad," she whispered, "I wish I had understood sooner." I squeezed her fingers gently. "You did understand. Eventually. That's enough." "I love you so much," she said, brushing my hair from my forehead. "And I love you," I replied. Those were my last words. I left this world quietly, peacefully, knowing that my daughter had returned to me. Not perfectly, not immediately, but sincerely. When the lawyer read the will, Emily cried. Not because she didn't inherit what she expected, but because she understood exactly why. She called the lawyer afterward. "I'm not upset," she said. "I'm humbled." She kept the old photos I left her. The letters. The trinkets from her childhood. The memories. And she told the lawyer something I didn't hear in life but wish I had. My father taught me the hardest lesson. Love needs presence. Not excuses. She didn't contest the will. She didn't question my choices. She didn't spiral into anger or entitlement. Instead, she told the charity I had chosen. "He believed in what you do. I'm glad his home will help someone who needs it." She visited the cabin one last time before handing the keys to Tom's son. She cried at the lake. Left wildflowers on the porch. Sat in the rocking chair and whispered, You always loved this place. She honored my choices, every single one. That was the greatest quiet justice of all. Not vengeance. Not regret. But understanding. If you ask me now, from wherever my soul rests, I would say I never sought revenge. Not truly. What I sought was clarity. And peace. And the gentle reminder that life moves in quiet circles. Emily wasn't a bad daughter. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't selfish. She was simply overwhelmed by the noise of life, the speed of her world, the pressure of everything that demanded her attention. And I, an old man with slow mornings and long afternoons, slipped through the cracks without either of us noticing. My decision to change the will wasn't a punishment. It was a reflection of reality. The people who stood beside me in my quiet years deserved the fruits of those years. And Emily. She received something far more valuable than a house or a cabin. She received the lesson I had learned the hard way. Love isn't measured by blood. It's measured by presence. Since my passing, she has become more attentive to the people around her. Her children, her husband, her friends. She calls her in-laws more. She visits her neighbors. She even volunteers once a month at the same charity that received my house. Not to make up for anything, but because understanding changed her. And that is the quietest, deepest justice in the world. When someone realizes the value of what they had. Not through punishment, but through reflection. If I could speak to her one more time, I'd say, Emily, I never wanted you to feel guilty. I only wanted you to feel present. Sometimes silence teaches louder than words. Sometimes space reveals what closeness hides. Sometimes calm decisions echo longer than emotional ones. And sometimes, silence is the best revenge.